Well, hello there, fourth grade math students. Hey, we're starting a new unit this week. We're in chapter 12, and it's all about relative sizes of measurement units. Everything gets measured, it gets measured by specific units. And so, as we work into this chapter, we're going to learn about the liquid measurements and solid measurements. We'll learn about weight and mass, how we measure those things, probably learn about what tools are used to measure those things. Uh, on page 639 is where this unit starts, and 639 and 640, there's a little exercise there for you to kind of refresh your memories. So go ahead and do 639 and 640. See if you can figure that all out based on what you might probably already know about this measurement. And we're going to talk about the vocabulary. And a vocabulary, again, you have to understand what these terms mean. If you don't know what a millimeter is, or a milliliter, or an ounce, or a cup, if you don't know what these things are, then it makes it really kind of ridiculous to figure out how to solve the problems. So spend some time, look at the vocabulary, get a good, fresh sense of what these terms mean. There's altogether there's 16 of them in this unit. So let's start with the first one. The first one is cup, and that's just a customary unit used to measure capacity and volume of liquids. A cup. I've got one right here, cup. And that's marked off with different increments of measurement. And that's how we measure the volume. One of the terms that we use to measure the volume of a liquid. A fluid ounce, that's another measurement. It's a customary unit used to measure liquid capacity and liquid volume. It's measured in ounces. You know, if you had a 12-ounce can of soda pop, it's telling you inside that can there are 12 ounces of soda pop. The next word is gallon. Gallon is another term used for liquid volume. And a gallon can be broken down into smaller units. For example, the next vocabulary word is a half gallon, which is 1/2 of a gallon. The next vocabulary word is a kilometer. And a kilometer, it's a metric unit for measuring length or distance. A kilometer is kind of like the standard measure for a mile. It's how we measure distance in the metric system. And there are two systems that we constantly are converting back and forth between, because the United States never converted fully to the metric system, although the metric system is pretty much everywhere around us. So sometimes we have to make a determination of what one means in reference to the other. But anyhow, a kilometer is a measure of distance. Then they throw in a data, and that's a line plot. And a line plot is just a graph that records data, and it does it on a number line. So we'll be doing that somewhere along in this unit. Liquid volume is the measure of how much liquid can fit inside a container. Volume is what you can fill something with. So a liquid measure would be a liquid volume. Then the next vocabulary word is mile. Like I said, mile is kind of like the standard term for distance measured. It's like the kilometer in the metric system. The next vocabulary word is milliliter. A milliliter Well, one liter, if you ever went out and bought a liter of soda pop, inside that liter are 1,000 milliliters. And so that's a conversion that you need to understand. A milliliter is a much smaller way of measuring capacity or liquid volume. They could just as easily sell you a 1,000 milliliter container of soda pop, but it's easier to go up to the next unit of measure and sell you a liter. The next word is a millimeter. Now you got to understand, it's a unit of measure in the metric system, measures capacity of liquid volume, measures length and distance. And on our ruler, if you recall, we have the standard measure of inches on one side, and then we have centimeters on the other side. Centa means 100. So that means there's a smaller measure beneath the centimeter. That's 1/100th of a centimeter, but it's a very small measurement. So you won't see those micro measurements typically used. So they start with a centimeter, and then a centimeter, if you multiply that times 10, centimeters 100, you multiply it times 10, it gives you 1,000. And that is what millimeter is. Now, whenever you see milli in front of a metric term, it's talking about that unit being broken into 1,000 parts. Anything with a milli in front of it is in 1,000 parts. The next thing you see is ounce. An ounce is a customary unit for measuring weight. Something has the weight of maybe 1 ounce. 16 of these, 16 ounces, is equivalent to a pound in the standard system. The next unit of measure is a quart, and a quart is another customary unit of liquid volume. There are 4 quarts in 1 gallon. So there are 2 quarts in a half a gallon. So a quart is 1/4 of a gallon. Pound. Again, another unit, standard unit of measure of weight. Something weighs 1 pound. That's equivalent to 16 ounces. Then we see second. Second is a measure of time. There are 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour. So second, hours are measurements of time. The last vocabulary word is ton. And ton is another standard measurement of weight. And 1 ton is equal to 2,000 pounds. So if something weighs 2 tons, then it weighs 4,000 pounds. There are 2,000 pounds in each ton. And there's a lot of things that we measure by tonnage. You don't buy a pound of gravel for your driveway. You buy a ton of gravel because it's very heavy when you've got a bunch of it in your dump truck. So you don't measure it by the pound. Anyhow, those are your vocabulary words. You can go ahead and get yourself ready for this. Lesson 12.1 will start tomorrow, and it's how you can use benchmarks to understand the relative size of measurement units. And a benchmark is a reference point. So we'll learn more about that tomorrow. That's your lesson for today. I hope you spend some time with those vocabulary words. Really get a sense of what they mean. And you should know already what most of those terms mean. So when we get into this chapter, when I start talking about those different units of measure, you'll know what I'm talking about, all right? So you kids take care, stay safe, stay out of trouble, and be kind to everyone, all right? We'll see you tomorrow.